270 road. Got a nice wife and kids, y'all, right inside the grove. You know I like Mr. Clark. Yeah, I should know he is my friend. Say if I just stay out the grave, he'll see that I don't go to the pen. Mr. Clark is a lawyer, he could lie stream. He's the first man to prove that water run upstream. That's why I like Mr. Clark. Yeah, I should know he is my friend.
All right. Welcome everybody to the Fishing Channel. We have a special edition tonight. And just to let you all know, we're dealing with a storm, so hopefully we don't lose any signal. But tonight we have Stephen Kambouris, aka Kambotrout, on the show tonight. So excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thanks for the invite. Let's do it.
It's great. So a lot of people who are watching right now know who you are, right? You are the snakehead whisperer of the area. That's what I dub you as.
I'll take it.
People who don't know, because we do regularly have people who come on the show who are not from this area. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So a little bit of background, then we'll jump straight into the fishing stuff. Mm-hmm. So Maryland native, born and raised, but I joined the Army, straight out of high school, and, bounced around Iraq, Afghanistan, Korea, Colorado, a few other places, Georgia. But I eventually made it back to Maryland in the fall of 2016. I caught my first snakehead in the fall or late summer of 2017. Mm-hmm. And I've been hooked on snakehead fishing ever since. Yeah. So it's like, snakehead whisperer, snakehead Jesus. I've earned a few different titles over time, but anyone who out there who's not familiar, can check me out. You can see my name right there. Just search Kambotrout on YouTube and it'll come up and you'll see my channel. When it comes to snakehead fishing, I'm pretty sure, at least Northern Snakehead, I'm pretty sure I'm the biggest channel out there as far as that goes, with a ton of content from action to tips and beyond. And let's see, anything else to hit right there? I mean, I'll have some more stuff to throw out later, just different events that are coming up and things like that. But I think that's just a little bit of brief background. So, married, 3 kids, dog, and, try to fish every chance I get.
Yeah. So we're going to put up your YouTube channel link. So Kambouris Stephen, aka Snakehead Whisperer. I watch your videos and you do so much more than snakehead fishing. So anyone who's listening who hasn't had the privilege of watching some of his videos, definitely tune in. I find your videos entertaining. I love it when your wife comes on. That's also fun. And when you're catching different fish in different scenarios too, very exciting and very educational. So I love your education angle as well to your videos. I learned so much.
And that's great to hear. It's, I'm a teacher at heart, from the military on through it. And any tips I can pass on to help people enjoy and appreciate the outdoors, I'm all about it. Hey, Tommy, what's going on, brother? I see you over there.
Tommy. All right, so how about we get into some snakehead fishing? You won a tournament recently, really big numbers. Share with us what happened.
Yeah, so that tournament was the High Octane East versus West Side Snakehead Tournament. So you had to basically just declare, okay, I want to fish the east side, I want to fish the west side. Beyond that, you got to choose your waters. And I chose the east side just because even though I live on the west side, I'm still more familiar with the east side because I've been going over there, for years at this point. Mm-hmm. And I almost didn't fish the tournament. I really almost didn't because I saw the rain forecast and I was like, do I really want to go out there and just be soaked all day long? And I was like, I'll get my waders, I'll get my rain jacket, and I'll go for it.
Right on.
And it's I'm super glad that I did. I mean, not to spoil the ending, but I got a 5 fish total in a single day of 158 inches. And that's just insane for a single day total of snakehead. I mean, that's an average size of 31 inches or something like that. And I got my new personal best, which was a 35.5 inch, just absolutely gargantuan snakehead out there. But I mean, the funny part is the day did not start in my favor. It was not going well. That's now that you can see my rainwear right there, right? It pretty much rained almost all day. And that's a 32.5 I had slung over my shoulder there. And But I mean, like by about 2.5 hours into the tournament, I had one fish on the board, and it was a 21.5 inch or 21.25 inch fish. And I was getting worried. Like I was honestly getting worried out there. I was getting short struck constantly. And then I decided to make a change at the last minute where I just moved out of this one cut that I was in, started fishing this other shoreline. And then I just started dialing them in. Buzz baits, topwater frogs and mice, the swim frogs made by Real American. You know, it's a
Yes.
God. I'll stop talking right there so we can just address individual questions. But it was a roller coaster of a day until about midday, and then I just started tearing them up.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's take a moment and see if we have any questions. Any good ones?
We got just some comments. What a snapshot.
Oh, what a
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
It's a
like the snakehead had a personality and that it can talk. It was crazy.
it's a I don't know what the inspiration was for me to start doing the kind of over the shoulder thing. I actually did that for the first time down in Florida with some bullseye snakehead, and I should have those videos coming up pretty soon on the channel. But that's one of my new favorite ways to take a picture with my snakehead now, though, is to kind of drape them over my shoulder and just bring them up front. They can say hi to the camera. I'm loving it.
All right, Sam. Can't see from my.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, Sam.
Question.
Any good questions?
Oh, there we go.
I can't see from where
Fish
I am.
Bell Grove.
Now, yeah, Bell Grove. That's a series of ponds off the Patapsco River, not too far from Baltimore. You know, really close to where I live, actually. And I did fish it in like the early part of me being back, but that was before I even knew really anything about snakehead at all. And I was fishing over like perch and catfish over there, which is decent. That definitely got some good catfish, carp fishing, a few other species over there. But since then, the snakehead have made significant inroads over there. So it's like I know guys who fish it. I've seen pictures of really big, really nice snakehead coming out of there, 30+ inch specimens.
Yeah.
So the short answer, Antonio, is that I haven't fished it yet since I was really got into snakehead fishing. I've been meaning to. I almost did a tournament over there with Amped Up, but then the tournament got canceled at the last minute because of weather. So I don't fish it yet, but it's on my list over there at Bell Grove. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ponds along the Patapsco over there that definitely hold good numbers of fish.
Good question. What's it got? Oh.
Yeah, I know that's what I hear. He said you might want to come back there, and I was like, yeah, that's what I've heard. I've been hearing really good things over there. Oh, okay. Favorite snakehead lures.
That's
Okay, Sky Blazer, I got you there. So first I'll put it in the context of this tournament day, and then I'll kind of expand it out from there. So pretty much anytime I go out on the water, the first thing I'll do, generally speaking, is using like a topwater moving bait. And one of my favorite go-tos is a buzz bait. The one I've been throwing a lot in recent history is made by American Snakehead Customs, and that's called the Dragon Buzz Bait version 2. And that served me really well in recent times, really well during the tournament as well. And but generally speaking, for buzz bait bites and topwater moving bait bites, on most days I usually only get good action on them through about mid to at the best late morning. Now, if you have an overcast day and it's raining all day, like a buzz bait is my go-to. I love a light rain, moderate rain for a buzz bait bite. It's just fantastic. But on your normal days, once that sun starts getting up in the sky, that's when I usually switch over either to like chatterbaits, your swim frogs, which are again made by Real American Fishing, your swim baits, and then I'll take my topwater mice and frogs, and that's when I'll start really targeting not just cover, but especially cover that has top cover above it. Because that top cover, like especially in areas that have a lot of ospreys and eagles, snakehead are conditioned to seek out that top cover for protection and safety. So like as the day progresses, that's when I start moving more towards casting deeper into cover. Generally speaking, like there's like a time and place for all lures. Like early and late season, I'm throwing the MEP spinner. Like when it's early and late season snakehead fishing, and you cannot beat a MEPS spinner. Like just for multi-species fishing in general too, but snakehead love the MEPS in about a number 3 or 4. And I've caught them on the fire tiger pattern. I'm also really partial to white and silver blades.
Yes.
But like, I guess my favorite way to catch snakehead, which kind of goes into lures, is probably either going to be the buzzbait or a topwater frog or mouse. You know, it's gonna be some kind of topwater, just because there's nothing like that snakehead pop. I just freaking love it.
For sure. Yeah, I remember the first time I caught my first snakehead. It is addicting. What I like about snakehead, it's not really fishing. It's more like hunting.
Yeah.
To scope out your surroundings, you have to be familiar with snakehead behavior and mating, right? So what about that mating? What do you give on tips about that?
So that's a great question. And honestly, it played into a lot with this most recent tournament. You know, a lot of pretty much every water, whether it's east side or west side right now, you have a very large percentage of the snakehead who are involved in the spawn. And snakehead, unlike a lot of other species, when they're actively spawning, like they have a courtship ritual, you know, they'll actually wind themselves around and over one another. Like you can see this whole kind of dance that they do once you spend enough time on the water, come to recognize it. But the bottom line is they don't bite when they're like that.
Yeah.
Now the saving grace, there's actually kind of two saving graces or silver linings to it. One is that usually not all snakehead are spawning at the same time. So even though a lot of them are spawning, there's still usually a few that will still be around to prowl and bite. The other part is that fry ball season has begun. And in the morning when I was out there, I got almost all my catches on moving baits, on just your standard casting to structure, casting to ambush points. But later in the day, when the rain started to lighten up a little bit, that's when the fry balls seemed to really start coming out. And I popped that one I had slung over my shoulder, that 32.5, that came on a fry ball. I caught at least probably 5 or 6 other snakehead on the fry balls, and ranging anywhere from about 22, 23 inches up to about that 32.5. And it's a really fun way to fish. I have some buddies who won't do it, they'll leave fry balls alone because they're snakehead purists. They're not going to bother the fry ball. I will harass that fry ball, catch the fish, and then put the fish back onto the fry ball. So that's kind of the compromise that I make there.
Yeah.
But it is something that you want to become familiar with, because when the snakehead are spawning really heavily, you're going to have slow days.
Yeah.
You're going to have very slow days. And sometimes you're going to get skunks out there. Like, I don't care how much time you spent chasing them. So, like, based on the most recent science, there's something called the Gonad Somatic Index. And that's where they measure the mass of the gonads, or the sexual organs, relative to the mass of the fish. And of course, as a fish gets closer and closer to spawning, the Gonad Somatic Index is going to rise, because those gonads, the egg sacs, are coming larger and larger.
Yeah.
Based on that science, you have 2 big peaks for northern snakehead breeding. And that's pretty much from May, June, edging into July, and then August, September. So right now we're getting to the point where most of the fish have dropped their eggs and they're guarding their fry. Yeah. And now that'll happen. You'll see fry balls heavily for probably the next 3 weeks to a month. And then we'll get back to some type of normalcy, but only for about another month and a half, and they'll spawn again. So yeah, it's something to be familiar with.
Oh, for sure. I was out with Butch twice, and fries were out. And, you know, Butch also being a snakehead whisperer himself, part of that legion, nothing. They had no interest whatsoever. They wanted to protect their young.
It's tough sometimes, especially when you get on pressured water, because, like, if you're dealing with parents who aren't pressured, they'll often strike almost immediately. Like, as soon as you come near their fry ball, they'll hit. But in those more pressured waters, like, I've had to take 5, 10, 15, 20 casts at a fry ball. And even then, sometimes I don't draw the strike. So it's like, yes, snakehead do protect their fry, but it's not a for sure thing. Like, there will be times where you see a fry ball and you're making all these great casts and you just don't get anything. You know, it's also an easy way for them to get shot, unfortunately, is that when they're on their fry, like a bow fisherman can come by, or a sling bow or anything like that, and just nail them. That's true. You know, it helps them because they're protecting their fry. It helps the offspring, but it also puts them at a big vulnerability. Okay.
So how do you get the lure out of his mouth?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. So snakehead have extremely powerful jaws. Like, if you haven't caught them before, I'll tell you right now, they have extremely powerful jaws. Now, don't freak out. They're not here to kill us. They're not super aggressive animals. Hang on a second. Someone's using the Alexa in my house. I don't want it to bleed over. Okay, I think we're good now. Okay. But anyway, it's so what you need really is some type of jaw spreader. There's a few different ones out there on the market, but you do definitely want to invest in jaw spreaders, lip grippers, and some long nose pliers or hemostat, something like that. And the heavier duty, the better, because the snakehead will destroy it. So, like step one, have a nice deep rubberized net. Keep them in the net until you're ready to like kind of release them, or you just want to live dangerously, because once they're out of the net, you lose a lot of that containment protection. Step two, get them on the lip grippers. And then step three is when you insert the jaw spreaders. But with every piece of equipment that I'm talking about, if you care about it, put a float on it, because that snakehead will death roll. He will do head shakes, and they have the most powerful death rolls and head shakes I've ever experienced from any fish. And they will toss your gear around the boat, out of the boat, into the water. And if it doesn't have a float on it, wave goodbye to it, because a lot of these waters these snakehead are in, I would not want to get out of the kayak to find it, because you're going to sink several feet down into the mud and the detritus that they just love to be around. So the short answer is, I mean, if you're harvesting, it's certainly going to be easier to get that hook out after you've like bludgeoned them or dispatched the fish. But if you're not harvesting, definitely you're going to want some jaw spreaders. You're going to want your lip grippers and a long nose pair of pliers, because I've handled well over 1,000 snakehead, maybe multiple thousands at this point. I've never had one try to bite me. You know, like the bad rep out there is kind of comical at times. I've never had one try to bite me. All I've had snakehead try to do is escape.
Yeah.
But if you put your fingers in their mouth, they could do some extreme damage. Like don't do that. Do not do that. Just keep your fingers out of their mouth.
Yeah, good tip.
Let's see.
What's the best time to target?
Okay, so yeah, what's the best time to target them? So really, it's going to be seasonally dependent.
Yeah.
When I'm in the early season or the late season, I'm going to be out there in the afternoon if I can be, because that gives the water maximum time to warm. Right. Now, if there was one time of year that's my ultimate favorite time to target snakehead, number one is going to be the pre-spawn before the first major spawn in the year. So you're looking at April through May. And during that time, you know, they're building up energy reserves because they need so much energy for the spawn itself. So they're feeding heavily. And like that's when I've had my like 30, 40, 50, 60 fish days. Like it's just insane once you find those fish during the pre-spawn, how aggressive they'll be during that pre-spawn. Like that's a great time. Now, once you get towards the summer is when I generally prefer my early mornings, and then in the afternoons from about 3 p.m. onward. Now, again, if you can find those overcast days or like the light rain type days, like you can catch them throughout the day. They're not going to be as shy as they are on those sunnier days when they're seeking out that cover. They're probably going to be on the prowl and feeding for most of it. So the question is difficult to answer because it's all conditions dependent. Like I can tell you when the worst time to chase them is, and that's anytime it's really windy outside. Like I don't know what it is about wind, but snakehead hate it. It's like, even though they're under the water, like sometimes you can get away with throwing a chatterbait and still pick a few off, but by and large, find your days that have low wind. If you can, fish them at overcast skies. In the summer, target the beginning and end of the day, and then in the spring and fall, target the PM. Give that water maximum time to warm. Raise that activity level.
Yeah, it's also hard, at least for me, to see the action on what's going on top of the water there. When the water's ripply and moving that fast,
Yes.
But season-wise too, just really quick, because I know we're running out of time and I want to get more really great information from you. But I know that I had a talk with Butch, and he goes out there in the winter time. You got to be really skilled to do this, I think.
Like Butch goes out there in the winter time, like December, January, throwing a topwater frog. Like that dude. I don't know if I don't know if I know anyone who's as dedicated to the topwater game as Butch is. Like for real. Like it's like, now, I mean, the way you get them that time of year, and it's possible, but you got to have patience. a lot of patience, because I mean, Butch is the guy who, like, if he finds a likely looking cut that he really thinks there's a snakehead in,
Yeah.
he'll cast that thing 3, 4, 5 times, and and that takes some patience and dedication. And I find myself to be a patient fisherman, but Butch is really patient, because I mean, when you're fishing in those cold temperatures, you have to let it pause like 10 to 15 seconds between moving that frog. You know, it's it's a little beyond my level. Like when it gets towards the winter time, that's when I break out my minnows, and like, you know, I have my minnows, my meps, my swim baits. That's what I usually use during the really cold months. But there's a few diehards out there like Butch who are still going to throw that topwater frog, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend him if you're looking for a kayak charter for snakehead. We'll put some information in the chat here so you can contact Butch. But yeah, diehard.
He will take care of y'all, folks. Real all-American fishing ventures. Yep.
Okay, we have another question here.
Yeah.
See if we can pick it up. What do you have planned in the near future?
There we go. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, all right. So we do have a couple things coming up. Let me grab my phone so I can get all these dates correct, because I don't know about y'all, but I tend to live in Excel trackers of various kinds because my memory is absolute trash. So
everything's got on the calendar.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So let's see. We do have a fishing meetup, and I say we, like the Legion of Anglers. You can kind of see my shirt here if I get at the right angle. But we have a fishing meetup. It's going to be on Mattawoman Creek, and that's going to be on July 24th. And what that really is a precursor to our tournament on the 20th of August.
Okay.
Our tournament on the 20th of August is a hollow body only tournament.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you really can't find too much of a better location for that than Mattawoman, because and that's really, that tournament is, may shock people who everyone's sitting down. It's actually primarily a bass tournament. Now there are snakehead side pots, but it's primarily a bass tournament. And I've fished Mattawoman. Like, there's few places that I would rather go to catch bass, especially big bass, because like they tend to be very willing to take your hollow bodies down there. So I can probably shoot y'all a link for that one right there.
Okay.
But that's our big tournament this year. Like, we kind of pulled back on tournaments this year because we did more of the cleanup meetups. We did a lot of the other different kind of events out there.
Love the cleanups. Really great.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a great time because we get to get out there and, you know, meet all of our, you know, like friends in the community, all like the followers from the Legion. And we get to help the environment and leave it better than when we went there. And that's something I encourage, like, beyond any just cleanup meetup events. Whenever you go out fishing, take out your trash bag with you and try to leave it a little bit better than when you got there. And there's Rashawn right there. He just highlighted, that hollow body tournament. That's a charity tournament, and it's going to benefit Heroes on the Water. And you can find more info about it either on the Legion of Anglers Facebook page or on the Fishing Chaos app. So either one of those, it'll show up. I think if you just type in the word frog or frog battle, it'll pop up for you.
Yeah. Do they also have it on the Heroes on the Water page? I haven't seen that recently. I
have to double check that. Like, I know they were waiting on us for a graphic so they could do exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
But I have to double check and make sure they got that graphic. Once they have that, if they haven't already, it will be on their page as well.
Yeah, I'd like to touch really quick on something a little different. In your wheelhouse, obviously. We got the pleasure of meeting a big fan of yours on the water yesterday.
Okay.
Really ambitious young fella. I want to say maybe he was 18. Love talking about fishing. Love talking about the excitement of having to have a conversation with you recently. But really gung-ho about snakehead. And I really love it when youth are so ambitious like that. This gentleman, his name is Jason Wyville. I don't know if we have his Facebook page, but he's making his own lures. Very passionate about it. He said he caught his monster snakehead on this. It gave it to me. So it was, what's that? Okay. Sorry, I'm getting back from my partner here.
and that's, I mean, it's hard to beat making your own lure and then catching fish on it.
Yeah. But
You know,
he gave us the ones that he caught fish on. He gave us, one of them's a catfish, one of them's a snakehead. Just super ambitious. I'm really excited about everything. He gave us a lot of great information and just really excited about the opportunity to fish with you. And I love
yeah,
that. Just amazing that this is the impact we really have on our youth. You know,
yes,
it keeps him out of trouble, right? But it also
yeah,
sounds like he started his own business venture here. So,
yep.
you know, we're changing the world by picking up after ourselves with trash, but more importantly, reaching the next generation. I think this guy is gonna go to the sky with what he's doing.
No, I think it's beautiful because I mean, it's like on the one hand, you know, people like us, we have like a wealth of experience in fishing because a lot of us have done it for a long time. But it's like you have these kids coming up now, especially in the snakehead game, and that's something that I think is just beautiful because a lot of older fishermen, we all come at the world with our view based on our experience. So
Yeah.
it's like to us or to a lot of older anglers, it's like snakehead, okay, they're invasive, they're foreign, they don't belong here. And it's hard for people to appreciate in many cases the many admirable qualities of the fish, like their potential as a resource, things like that. But guys like Jason, who are essentially growing up with them, like that's a normal part of their environment. And they're
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to come at this with a much different perspective and
Oh
see a
yeah.
lot of the beneficial qualities of these fish. And they're going to learn the game even better than me or like anyone else out there because they're going to spend their childhood and their lives and their young adulthood chasing these fish.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think it's beautiful because you know I had one of my friends, I won't name him, but he thanked me like a long time ago for getting him into fishing because I essentially taught him how to fish. And he's like, you know, you got me like away from like, you know, drug culture and all of that and a lot of other stuff that can really get you in trouble when you can get in the outdoors and even beyond the benefit to yourself, the stress relief, you know, just connecting with nature. Beyond that, it builds your appreciation for it.
Yes.
And, you know, we need more of that. We definitely need more of that from like people who like really value, you know, the environments. They'll take care of it. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I look forward to fishing with Jason too. Like we have it on the calendar for early August. So weather pending, we'll be out there.
Yeah, I look forward to what he's doing in the future. I see a charter business. I see a YouTube page. I see amazing things. He talked about bringing his youth group. He had his nephew with him. He's
Yeah,
hardcore. Love it. Love it. So,
that's
what I
fantastic.
say to everybody is that, you know, we all love fishing and nothing like pulling your personal best out of the water. But we're really making impacts in so many other areas that are really important. And I hope we don't lose sight of that.
No,
Really.
it's a great point, and I very much agree.
Mm. So let's
But
check to see. Do we have any? Oh, we got a question. Who wants to do
throw it up
France,
there. Throw her up there.
do you have a real question?
There it is. There it is.
Yes, it's good.
So
Love it.
so folks, like this was, I want to say this was probably the fifth or so fish I caught this day. And there's actually a really interesting story behind it because what I was doing is I was working a shoreline. And if you watch my videos, like I talk about working a shoreline parallel a lot. And what I'll do is I'll cast parallel on the shoreline with a moving bait, like a buzz bait or something like that. And then I'll have my other baits next to me, usually at least one or two other rods, one with a swim bait or a swim frog, and then one with a topwater hollow body mouse. So that after I just buzz that shoreline, then I can pick out individual points or pockets or cuts. And then I can just cast, cast, cast. Once I cover that space of water, then I move forward. And I'm just kind of cutting the water up in chunks. But anyway, in this case right here, I threw my buzz bait off at this timber just off the shoreline. And it got snagged. And I was just like, God bless America. And then I had a choice at that point. I could either go get my buzzbait because I love throwing my buzzbait and just get back to buzzbait fishing. I'm like, you know, let me at least cast this piece of structure, get one quality cast on it. So I picked up that real All-American curly, you know, Butch's curly tail frog.
Yeah.
I threw it at that point. I felt that hit, you know, just that thump that you get from a snakehead, just knock slack in the line. I set that hook, and it's like when you catch a big snakehead, when you hook a big snakehead, a lot of times you'll know it. If you don't, even if you don't see them on the surface because of the wake that they throw off with their body. And I saw the wake that's just pushing just a massive amount of water. I'm like, oh wow, I got a really big fish here. And I mean, y'all see the video eventually, but I fought that fish. She fought like hell. I finally got her to the kayak. I was lucky enough to get that picture that y'all just saw on the bump board. That's a 35.5-inch fish. And you can see like just the gut on it, the thickness of this fish. I'm estimating between around 17 or 18 pounds, but I never got a chance to weigh her because after I got that picture on the bump board, I lifted her up to get the vanity shots with my my 360 GoPro facing back. She freaked out. Like, and I mean, a fish that big and that powerful, it's like you'll see the video, you see the impact, just the shock waves of the camera just like shaking around because she like flipped, got off the grippers, hit the kayak, and knocked one of my rod and reel sets out of the water into the drink, and then just as she escaped, and that was the last I saw of that fish. But I got her on the board, I got her on video. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
That's all that matters. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just part of why we do snakehead fishing. Honestly, is because of how much of a handful these fish are and how much of a challenge they are to just maintain control over.
All right, outdoors in Maryland.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we lost power a little bit ago, so it might be heading your way now.
Hey, stay safe, Sam.
Yeah, one thing about snakehead fishing. So now I have offshore fishing experience with tuna. And I fished some other things, but there's still nothing like. And I'm comparing this to tuna. There's still nothing like the hunt.
Yep.
The effort is tremendous, no doubt, with all the mates and what they do on the big boats. But there's still nothing like snakehead fishing. And I have to say, truly, that's still my number one until I find out how cutlass pull. So that might be my number one. But right now, it's snakehead.
No, I'm right there with you because I mean that's one of the most beautiful things about snakehead fishing is the areas that they take you into while you're pursuing them. I can't recommend a kayak enough. It's the best fishing investment I ever made. But these creeks and swamps and bays and marshes are secluded, beautiful. The ambient noise of the insects and the birds and the amphibians and everything going on around you and watching the sunrise. It's just absolutely gorgeous out there. But like the other part you're speaking to about the hunt, like that's my kind of fishing. Like I have a really hard time being a sit and wait bait fisherman. Yeah. Like to each their own, not here to knock it. I'm just saying that for me, I have a really hard time with it. I like to go explore. I like to hunt those fish down, figure out the pattern, look at all these different cuts, challenge myself, see how many different tight locations I can get my lure into. Right. Because you have to with snakeheads sometimes. They'll be in some of the thickest, farthest back cover you can imagine.
For sure.
And if you're not trying to penetrate that cover with some of your presentations, you're missing out on fish.
That's true.
Yeah, the places snakehead take you are just incredible. Like waters you never would have thought about fishing before because there really weren't any big predatory fish there. Now you have, just a superb level, just sport fish waiting to just light your day on fire. I love that stuff.
That's true. I say that pretty much about all freshwater fish. I mean, I pulled a bass out when we were doing Heroes on the Water, and he made me work for it. Like no one was catching that day, and I felt like I was hunting snakehead that day. But freshwater fish, for me, in my experience, they make you work for it for sure. They don't make it easy. That's a good question here. Oh, here we go. Which frog is your favorite type to throw? Good question.
Oh boy, that is tough. That is tough. So I'll give you my honest answer first. Normally I don't always name this particular frog. It's actually a mouse, and it's a mouse that was made by, I believe it was Savage Gear. It's called the Lilly Ninja Mouse. In Savage's wisdom, and I've written them about this and tried to get them to restart production. I really have, but they discontinued it. They still make the larger version, but like the 2.5-inch version, they don't make those anymore. So those things are almost like a collector's item at this point. So but the thing I'll give you about it is the body profile. Like I like that mouse because it's relatively small. It's got a thin body profile, but it floats very well. The tail trailer, like the frills that you get on the end of a frog or a mouse, topwater hollow bodies, the action on that thing, even when you stop it, it like waves back and forth in the water. Is just a lot of qualities about that lure that I just absolutely love. It imitates a bait fish very well while also imitating a topwater terrestrial like a mouse or a frog. The good news, though, is that there are some folks out there on the market who have started to produce lures that are very similar to that. Snakehead Outlaws has theirs, and Rashawn, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, you'll see it in the video from the tournament day. He's been working on his own design for a mouse, and I threw that on the tournament day. So y'all keep an eye out. It's so new, he still hasn't named it, but it's coming really soon. So keep an eye out.
The infamous mouse.
The infamous mouse. There you go. I like that, dude. That's a good name. You can't. It's hard to beat Rashawn when it comes to naming something or a marketing brand.
So Grant suggested the Infamouse.
The Infamouse. That's damn good too. That is damn good too.
Yeah, great. That's great.
Yep.
Awesome. So we got one more question for tonight. Let's see. How long do you paddle on average? Jeez.
So without putting my cards too much on the table here, because there's one or two spots I'm really trying to preserve right now for my upcoming tournaments. But to answer Dustin's question in kind of a roundabout way, wherever I go, I'm probably paddling farther than most people are willing to. And the reason that you have to do that right now, like if you really want to get on the fire snakehead bites right now, a lot of times you have to put in like a 20, 30-minute paddle to get to those really good grounds. And part of that is, just basic water access. Sometimes the launch points aren't close enough to where you actually want to fish. But the other part is this. Snakehead's becoming more and more popular, whether it's from rod and reel fishermen or bow fishermen. The bottom line is that a lot of those spots that are very easily accessible, the fish there are either getting thinned out by harvest or they're just becoming more intelligent because they're seeing those presentations over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So if you really want to get to those fire bites, a lot of times what you have to do is use your tools like Google Earth and all of that stuff, find the launch point, and then learn the structure you're looking for. You're looking for the thick grass. You're looking for the reeds. You're looking for the timber shorelines. And then just kind of suck it up is what I'll say to you is when it comes to like putting in that effort, whether it's a pedal drive or a paddle kayak, I don't care. It's like, even with my really old sit-in paddle kayak, I would oftentimes paddle and cover like 6 or 7 miles out away from a launch point and then come back. And it's work. There's no two ways about it. But a lot of times that hard work gets rewarded. So you use those tools at your disposal and don't be afraid to put in those like 15, 20, 30-minute paddles to get to that water that hasn't seen that much pressure. It'll pay off a lot for you.
For sure. So patience and enjoy the journey.
Yes.
So
yes,
that's it for questions for tonight. We'll put up one more time the link to your YouTube page. One question for me, though, really quick, if I may.
Yeah.
Do you have any videos on bank fishing?
So I do have a couple of those, yes. And like most of them, what I would do, I should add a keyword in there so it's easier for everybody to search or create a playlist on my channel. Yeah. What I'll do is I'll create a playlist on my channel. It seems like the best way to go. Because, I mean, there are waters around here where you do have good shore fishing for them or wade fishing or things like that. And, I mean, honestly, they're making it into they've made it into every single tributary to the Chesapeake. So depending on how far up those tributaries run, like you have places like the Patuxent around Savage Mill, where you can walk the shoreline along that river, and there's snakehead in there. Like same thing with the different stretches of the Gunpowder River. Octoraro Creek. Some people are probably like staring daggers at me because I'm dropping names for a few different areas right now. But I mean, they're in every single tributary to the Chesapeake now. So there are shore fishing opportunities out there. And the last plug I always like to give out there is the Maryland DNR has a website dedicated to public water access. It shows you all the launch points in Maryland. But those launch points also often are right next to trails. They're also often just right next to shore fishing opportunities like that. So definitely, if you haven't checked that out yet, look up Maryland DNR's public water access page. God, what a resource. It shows you literally every launch in Maryland. It's insane.
All right. Well, once again, thank you so much. Check out the Legion of Anglers Facebook page, also on Instagram. I think we put up Butch's information before. We'll see if we can do that again. Any last words for us?
I don't think so. I mean, make sure you're subscribed, because it's like a lot of times I won't give you all the exact location of where I fish, because I've seen what can happen to small waters when the fishing pressure hits. There's trash everywhere. People are keeping all the fish. But what I will do is I'll tell you the tools I use to find the waters, and then I'll tell you almost everything about how I catch the fish and what I think may be successful. So if you're looking for those kind of tips and information, make sure you're subscribed. I'll pass them along to you.
Right on. Thank you so much for your time. Very much appreciate it. Love having you on the show. Apparently, the second time you had an interview with Grant a while ago.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in, and have a great night. Fish on.
Young, just hang around. Too proud to be your fool.